So the two things I think my audience particularly want to know is how often is the are you planning to fly starting in 2024, and how big is the cabin going to be? So what's the capacity of each flight?
Yeah, so the capsule, the Space Lounge accommodates up to 8 passengers and a pilot. And I say up to because we've actually designed it to be really flexible
Okay.
so that you could have fewer people, take out some of the seats, really change it around inside. So you could have a wedding or, I don't know, a dining table or whatever it is that you particularly want. That's different from our standard 8-seat configuration is pretty exciting that we can do.
Are you near MCO then? I know. Are you in Orlando?
No, actually, I'm on the Space Coast.
Oh, okay.
So our operations center is on Kennedy Space Center. I'm actually right outside the gate at Space Coast Spaceport,
Oh,
which is
wow.
also an operating airport. So right outside the window. We actually had an air show here yesterday, which was cool.
Okay. And that's where the initial 2024. That's where your schedule is going to
Yeah.
kick off, right? It's going to be the Kennedy Space Center.
Yeah, so some of our flights will definitely be going from Kennedy Space Center and other launch sites in Florida. But very quickly, we want to fly from other places around the world so that we can have people have different experiences from all over the world. It's really fun when you talk to astronauts about what are the most amazing things to see from space. And after they say, well, everything, of course, once they've done saying that, then they start saying things like, well, actually, where the ocean and the land meets is amazing because of the colors of the sea in those areas. And we'll be flying up from here when we first start flying from the Space Coast in Florida. You'll be able to see across the Bahamas, which apparently is some of the most incredible places to see from space for colors and, seeing that between the islands and all of that. Then you can see down to the Keys, which is going to be amazing, across into the Gulf. The other thing they say is amazing to see is things you recognize. And of course, every American will recognize Florida, which is really cool. So flying from Europe would be awesome, be able to see the boot of Italy or other amazing things. And I'm sure everybody has their different favorite thing they'd want to see from space. And we're going to be able to accommodate a lot of that.
And so what's the plan? Will it return to where it takes off, or will the journey end up somewhere else?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, it's a suborbital flight, which means it does go up to space and comes back down, not too far from where it
Okay.
launches from. So last year, for example, we did a flight from here, a test flight that went extraordinarily well, and it splashed down, because we do splash, 50 miles off the coast in the Gulf, exactly where we wanted it to splash. And so that was a really exciting test, actually.
And then the length of these trips will be about 6 hours. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So it's
Okay.
2 hours up to space, roughly 2 hours at the top, and then approximately another 2 hours to come down. You will splash and the ship will be right there. It'll pick the capsule up out of the water, put it onto the deck. So our explorers will just get straight out of the capsule onto the deck to make it super easy. And so that whole experience, once you're out on the deck, roughly between 6 and 7 hours, and then we'll bring everybody ashore. And what's important about it, that very last part, so that I've heard a lot of people, even the people that have most recently gone up on, say, the Blue Origin flight, talk about needing time to really absorb the experience. So I think it's going to be amazing to actually have time at sea as you're on your way back to shore for our customers to really be able to take that time, sort of really think about what they just experienced between each other and for themselves.
I want to ask about two things that I think consumers will know about. One, people who are prone to nausea. I know it might be a weird question when you're going to space, but people who are prone to nausea, is that a worry? And then two, what about the people who are a little bit shy about safety and things like that? I mean, how would you abate those fears?
So the nausea thing is, for anybody who is prone to that, be really happy we don't have microgravity involved.
Okay.
Because that, if anybody who has that concern, we don't have that. So there won't be any of that issue. So that's number one. On the safety, so this is really an inherently safe way of going to space. You know, first of all, it's very low energy. We're going very slowly. Nothing happens very quickly. Then if you look at the vehicle itself, we are basing our entire vehicle on very well-established technology. So the space balloon has actually been flown by NASA, other governments, and members of our team more than 1,000 times. So it is very well understood and successfully safe technology. Obviously, we still need to have backup systems in the event of any kind of anomaly. So between the capsule and the space balloon is a parachute system we call the reserve descent system. That is very similar to the kind, well, it actually is the kind of parachutes that have been flown over 1,000 times from these altitudes and even from space, which is a much more dynamic environment. And it has never failed in all that time. So it's inherently safe. And then the other thing is, you know, unlike when you look at every other vehicle out there, you know, what most people may not think about is that the capsule where the people are separates at some point from its primary flight system, right? If you look at the Blue Origin flight, at some point that capsule comes flying off the top of the rocket, and then the parachute has to open, and then it comes back down onto the parachute. Our system doesn't have any of those complexities. We've eliminated all of those because you go up under the balloon and then you come gently back down under the balloon. So you've just eliminated all those pathways for risk. So all in all, this ends up being a very safe system.
This is Dan McCarthy, and you're listening to the Check-In Podcast.